Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am your host, Sandy Shellis, and welcome again back, Carolyn Baker. I'm so happy to have you with us. It's
Great to
great.
be here.
I can hear is your phone muted?
Uh,
Because I hear it.
Now
She
it is.
Okay, Carolyn's got her phone so she can see the whole chat tonight, not just what I put up. So
Yeah.
everybody that's joining, let me say hello to Kim. Thank you for moderating, and Jean and Looney Tunes are moderators, and everybody else, welcome, welcome, welcome. And we have the grande dame of the Dubosphere, Dr. Carolyn Baker, who is an amazing person. Carolyn, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, Sandy. It's been a while.
I know it's been a while. What was the last one we did? Was it the
I
uh
don't know.
I don't know, you've written a lot of books and we like to have you on
Yeah.
when you write a new book, and I think you said the last one was your last one. You didn't want to write anymore.
Last one on that topic. I don't know. I don't have any other books in the oven right now, but I don't plan to write any more about collapse because I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah, it is what it is. We are where we are.
Said it all. I've said it all.
You've said it all. And happy birthday.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
I didn't even key up the happy birthday video. I should have done that, but it is
Sure.
great. And it's really great to see all of you. So I think what we're going to do is start with the article because I'm sure none of you read it from the show notes. And the basis of tonight's show is this article that Carolyn wrote in Substack. And I really want to help her get more of an audience on Substack. I think it would be wonderful. Her writing is so spectacular. So, as you are joining, let me get this up. And all right, let's get the article up. And here we go. It's called Mamala, Papala, and America's Traumatized Adults. Mamala, Papala, and America's traumatized adults. The United States has never witnessed a political phenomenon like the one we are witnessing with the candidacy of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, with perhaps the exception of a more gradual rise in the popularity of Franklin Roosevelt. What is it about this particular ticket and the timing of its explosion of energy and enthusiasm in the late summer of 2024? Well, as a student of Carl Jung and other revered sages hypothesizing about human behavior throughout time, I am deeply fascinated by social as well as individual behavior. And I find that there is usually an archetype that depicts what is occurring in society at a particular time. Several years ago, this fascination prompted me to write Dark Gold, the human shadow, and the global crisis. Today, as I bear witness to the Harris Walls ticket, I'm unable to resist the psychological and uh, arch- archetypal. Do I say that wrong, Carolyn? Ar-
Archetypal.
it's archetypal, just like I thought. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
In Yiddish, Mamala is an affectionate name for one's mother. Harris's stepchildren have sometimes referred to her by that name. Tim Walz, America's normal dad, coach, teacher, and soldier, exudes the father energy that many people never had or perhaps lost to Fox News, which left in its wake of psychological carnage countless older men who may have been kind, affectionate fathers in the past, but increasingly became bitter, grumpy old men. In her brilliant Netflix documentary, which, oh, I watch and I share, The Brainwashing of My Dad, Jen Senko explores her dad's diminished kindness and approachability after years of watching Fox. Tim Walz is the father so many people wish they had. So, yes, I'm looking at America in real time and seeing that those two middle class kids, one from Oakland and one from a Nebraska farm, as Harris put it, became America's good mom and good dad. But why now? After 9 years of Donald Trump, who would not be thrilled to embrace good political parents. Kronos, aka Saturn, from Greek mythology comes to mind. The myth says that Cronus, the Titan god of time, is similar to the Roman god Saturn in that both are their children because of a prophecy that they would be overthrown by their offspring. All abusive parents can consciously or unconsciously know that their children secretly despise them and want to overthrow them. One of the hallmarks of a non abusive, caring parent is that they don't worry about being overthrown. They just show up and they do their job with love and commitment. News anchors struggle to explain how the political landscape could have changed so quickly. One week the country is ennui and despair. And overnight, a new energy, now being called the politics of joy, sweeps the country like wildfire. It is as if we had spent 8 years in a bunker and suddenly someone opened the door. The light broke in, and once again we were able to inhale fresh air and bask in sunlight. Saturn was eating his children as fast as they could be fed to him, facilitated by a pandemic that killed over 1 million people in America as we felt suffocated by masks and lockdowns. Suddenly, there were no longer two aging men in the political race, but only one. Tired, haggard, cognitively declining, rambling, lying with every breath, and threatening to return us to the bunker. Or perhaps concentration camps, in a regime that would never end in our lifetimes. While I do not agree with every policy of Joe Biden, I revere the character, courage, and humility it took for him to step aside. To be not just an old man, but a wise elder. I do not know any adults who have not been traumatized on some level. And the years 2016 to 2024 have been especially unkind to our souls. I could enumerate the sources of the trauma, but to do so would ignore the overarching trauma of global polycrisis that touches every aspect of our lives in some way. Every one of us knows on some level that we are in its web and that escape is impossible. Mamala and Papala cannot spare us from it or stop it or minimize it. If they are wise, they will mitigate it as much as possible and minimize its brutality. However, their inability to prevent what is already unstoppable should not prevent us from engaging in the politics of joy. As we do so, we must remember that joy and happiness are not the same. At the moment, media frequently refers to what we are experiencing as a sugar high. And on one level, that is accurate. Industrialized humans crave all things new and different. But throughout history, great wisdom teachers have schooled us in the difference between joy and happiness. Viktor Frankl is one example. He wrote about experiencing joy in the middle of a concentration camp where he was surrounded with suffering and had lost nearly everyone in his family. His example reminds us that happiness is circumstantial and comes and goes with our experiences. We can be happy in the morning and deeply miserable by the evening. But joy is another matter. It lives in the core of who we are, in the depths of our higher self. It does not depend on circumstances, but rather on the meaning we make in the face of adversity. It relates to our purpose and what matters to most of us. It has to do with our values and who we want to be as individuals, humans, and citizens. Bearing in mind that Mamala and Papala cannot save us, and bearing in mind that the polycrisis can only deepen, as much as we may despise political action, we must choose what kind of country and what kind of communities we want to live in. If they are wise elders and strong leaders, they will work as much as humanely possible to minimize the damage done by Saturn and his cohort. And if we are responsible citizens of Earth, we will minimize the severity of polycrisis by healing our trauma, serving our communities, and preparing emotionally and spiritually for its consequences. Mom and Pop will disappoint as all parents do, no matter how benevolent their intentions and skillful parenting. Yet they are pointing us to values that we misplaced on the way to building an empire, trashing a planet. Mamala's stroke of genius was choosing Beyonce's Freedom as the theme song of her campaign and mentioning Project 2025 every time she speaks. Meanwhile, Saturn is busy devouring his children and boy wonder who has sold his soul to him is standing in line to be eaten alive, eager to monitor the menstrual cycle of American women. So let's indulge our love of the human spirit along with Mamala's radiant smile and Papa's weekend project Home Depot grin. We will almost certainly eventually lose the freedoms we cherish that Beyonce croons about, but traumatized as we are, we can roar with our vote. I'm not going quietly and I'm not going now. Oh, Carolyn, thank you for reading Carolyn's blog. Please, guys, subscribe for her blog. That was fantastic. My mom loved it. My 90-year-old mother loved it. And so I'm going to I'm sorry, my eye is watering. I haven't been feeling well, guys. Obviously, I canceled Friday night, so that's why Carolyn's with us here on Tuesday. Carolyn, take it away, and the chat. We will be interactive tonight. If you have questions, put a Q, and I will try to get to everybody. So let's talk about this trauma and how it interweaves with the politics of today in the United States that people are watching from all over the world.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. And, you know, we live in a world that is inherently traumatizing, not just around the environment, but around so many other things. And we don't consciously know that that's happening to us. On some level, we know, but we don't think about it much. And and then we look at the begin to look intellectually at the polycrisis, and when we really get our teeth into that, then we realize the extent to which we have been traumatized.
Oof.
And it's really important that we do some healing on that. I'm not saying heal every last little drop of it, but we need to be in the process of working on that so that we can be more present and more available to the planet, to other people, and to ourselves as we make this descent, into the polycrisis and all of its ramifications. Um, I've been really pleased and gratified in the last 15 years or so to be working with people on their trauma and also just helping people understand and cope with the polycrisis. I used to call it collapse coaching, but now it's
Yeah.
just I do coaching around lots and lots of issues. But a lot of people who are becoming aware of the polycrisis, want to come to me, talk to me about it, and most importantly, learn how to live into it. So my last two books, which you may be familiar with, are Undaunted,
Mhm.
Living Fiercely into Climate Meltdown in an Authoritarian World. So that was like 2022.
I'm pretty sure
And
we've had you on for a few of
yeah,
them. Yeah. With
yeah,
Jennifer. Yeah.
yeah. And then the very last one, Apocalypse Anytime, an interspiritual devotional for a world on fire. And so these are books of practices. These are things that we can do practically in our own lives to help us heal and also to prepare us emotionally and spiritually for a deepening polycrisis.
Yes. Which
And the
is,
main
yeah.
thing I wanted to communicate in
Hmm.
the article, because I wrote it, with lots of doomers in mind, is that, hey, this is an opportunity. Something phenomenal is happening in our culture that is providing us an opportunity to express and feel joy. It is like we were in that bunker for 8 years and now we're out,
Yeah.
and we're feeling sunshine on our faces, and we're feeling the joy of this new campaign. And so
Oh,
enjoy that.
for 5 minutes.
Take it in,
Yeah.
and don't feel guilty about feeling joy. Whether it's that situation or any situation, feel the joy.
That possibly, while we are in these poly crises, we can feel. I've been saying it. Just can't I just have 5 minutes of feeling good that maybe we won't lose women's rights? I mean, for the last few years, I've been making videos about white Christian nationalism. I had you on to talk about that. We talked about that last year.
Right,
I've made videos about all the hideous things going on with the climate deniers. I mean, it's just been
right.
one after the other, and I want to feel just something, not hope, maybe, but I want to feel good about something and do things. And I volunteer. I do volunteer work when I can.
Yeah, that brings you joy, and also just the simplicity of your garden. I know there's a lot of rain, there's a
So
lot of
simple.
weeds, but the joy of growing your own food and canning it and eating it. I mean, how many people do that? How many people really know what that's like? And good on you for doing that, but let yourself feel the joy of that, girl.
Yeah. All right. It's the joy and it's the pain, and pain equals joy and all that, And I really don't feel sorry for myself about the fact that this was a bad week, but we all have them. Everybody in our beautiful chat that's with us tonight can
Well,
commiserate here.
Jean asked me to tell us a story about when you look back, you started on this path of teaching about the polycrisis. Um, wow, okay, so that's a long look back because
Why not?
It kind of started with me in 2002. Some of you are familiar with Mike Rupert and his work, and unfortunately, he left us in 2014, took his own life because
Michael
for
Rupert.
many reasons, his trauma and his inability to really find joy and live with it. Um, so he taught me a lot, and I worked with him for a couple of years, and then he made a movie called Collapse,
Yeah.
in
What a
which he
heavy
talked.
movie.
Yeah, it was. And then I just, continued to do research, and I discovered the transition movement in 2008, I think it was, and some of the good things that they were doing. And I was in Vermont for a while, and I thought maybe that's a place I wanted to hunker down with people and start an intentional community. That did not work out. So some friends invited me to visit Boulder, Colorado, which is where I am now. And those folks were heavily involved in transition. And I moved out here and started writing books about collapse and doing speaking. And then because I had been a psychotherapist for 20,
Yes.
25 years of my life, I decided to start doing coaching around collapse and other issues. So that's what I've been doing for about the last 15 years and loving it, and really grateful that I'm alive in these times, regardless of where they're taking us.
That's quite quite a lot, because you are an inspiration to so many people, and Jean even said it in there, so I really appreciate that. So, in that feeling joy, tell me that about the guilt in feeling joy, or the
Okay.
guilt in even having a glimmer of hope. It's like hope is a dirty word, and
Right.
I don't want it to be a dirty word. I have hope. I have hope that, maybe people will wake up around here and will vote for a different congressional candidate. Little hopes. I hope that I don't have any more powdery mildew on my squash plants. So let's talk
Okay.
about language and words.
Sure. Yeah, that's really important. So hope is fine as long as we don't become attached to the outcome. It's like, oh, it just has to be this way. you know and hope is also active. Joanna Macy wrote a book called Active Hope. So you can hope, and then what are you going to do to help make that happen? It's like, okay, this is great, Kamala and Tim, and we love this energy. So what are we going to do? Well, we need to get out there and help people, wake people up, and work, at the polls, or whatever way we need to work, volunteering, to get them elected. Which, like I said in the article, isn't going to solve all our problems,
No.
but it's going to elevate us in a way that would not have been possible with another Trump administration. Which, by the way,
Could
would never.
happen. It could
It
happen.
could happen.
They're out
Could
there
not. And
lying.
if it happens, it will never end. Okay? So we need to know that. And if that doesn't put our hair on fire and make us really passionate about helping to get Kamala elected, I don't know what will.
I don't know either. The social media has so much, you know, so much bullshit going around, and they're swift boating Tim
Yeah.
Waltz now. Which the swift, if you don't know what it is, that was what they did to John Kerry, and that with you know, tarnishing their service and say what you will about our country, people do volunteer and go to the service, and they were lied into wars, and we don't want to do that anymore. And there's a lot of conflict around the world, and I think that they are perfectly well suited to possibly not continue the United States role in all of these conflicts. I
Yeah.
hope. Can
Yeah.
you tell me how you feel about the whole Middle East and Gaza and all the mess we're in over there, and what you see or what you hope for this administration to do?
Well, number one, it's really important to understand that Netanyahu is intending to have a forever war so that he doesn't have to go to jail. It's the same thing as Trump, and he wants to keep this war going as long as possible for his own political gain and also so that he doesn't have to be tried and found guilty by his people. So that's depressing in itself.
Yeah.
Um, Kamala has hinted that she really wants to change policy. I don't know what that will look like. And I don't know if that's possible because we may be, and I don't know this, but we may be going into a war that involves lots and lots of countries. God forbid, a third world war. So it's really, really a hotbed over there. And these hostilities have gone on for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. So I'm not hopeful that they're going to get solved anytime soon, if ever in my lifetime. It's really, really a mess with hostilities that are very, very old. Um, but but we'll see what Kamala and Tim want to do about changing policy, because something's got to change, and the genocide in Gaza cannot continue. And
Yeah.
that's what Netanyahu wants. He wants to completely wipe out that
Yes.
country
Yes.
and Palestinians in general.
And they deserve a place to live, and it needs to end. It really needs to end. So with that, and we're talking about things that they could possibly do. Do you think that they would ever, that these two, if they got in, could ever say we're not going to fund Israel anymore, or is our election system so heavily weighted on donors and PACs that politicians don't have a shot in doing that? What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know really about that. I would certainly hope they would go in that direction. Um, you know, maybe there needs to be a change of people who are working on this. Maybe there needs to be a change of Secretary of State
Well, yeah.
or other diplomats who are working on this for the United States. Um, Change will not hurt, I don't think. So let's change it up and see if that makes a difference. But we do have to have a different policy toward Israel. We just do.
Yeah. And I don't think that policies are going to change unless we pressure. And
Yes,
progressives are all about pressuring.
yes, we
Pressure, pressure, pressure. But not just that, but pressure to overturn Citizens United and the Dobbs decision, because getting money out of politics is the only way we can heal our trauma on the
right.
way down. I mean, or the way out, or
Yeah.
dealing with polycrisis. I mean, heal our trauma. And are enough people in the United States, do you think enough people in the United States are even able to grasp the polycrisis? I mean, just look at social media cesspool. And I'm going to pull up a little poll in a minute, but what do you think?
Uh, I don't think that right now people are willing to grapple with it. I think that most people in our country are in denial of that and lots of other things. Certainly in denial of climate crisis. It's kind of like, well, maybe next summer it'll be cooler. Maybe next summer it'll rain less. Yada yada yada. And meanwhile, the sky is falling. So
It's falling right now in Greece, pretty
yeah,
red again, again,
yes.
again. So, all right, I'm going to show you guys this. I went on Twitter. I got off it last night. I signed out because I didn't want to hear the Elon Trump thing. I was like, that's my little protest, just sign out of Twitter. And then, of course, every commentator today. I'm sorry for wiping my eye, but it's like, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I have this fan on in here, but um, I looked and so I passed by this. Oh, no, it wasn't Twitter. It was YouTube. And it is one of the left political people. And here's the poll. Okay, what was most concerning? Can you all say it? What was most concerning part of Elon Musk's interview with Trump? And these are, but get mind you, these are all like centrist, lefty Democrats. I wouldn't say so much progressives, but I don't know. When Trump endorsed firing striking workers, so this was the most concerning to these people that watch David Pakman on YouTube. 11%. When Trump said he'll shut down the Department of Education, 42%. When Trump agreed that nukes aren't as scary as people think. And then when I put, of course, when Trump downplayed climate change and then the slurring, 42% shutting down the Department of Education and 28% with the nukes, which I would have thought the two big ones would be climate change and the nukes. That he said nukes aren't as scary as people think. Now, of course, the nuclear industry would agree with that
Right.
totally. But I was shocked at this because I'm thinking, okay, how do people not understand that it was the lowest rated? What's your take on this?
I just think that people are in massive denial around climate change. And the media is not helping with that. We're not getting educated about it by the media in the way that we should. And that's number one. And number two is people are very reluctant to open up to learning more about it because it's like, well, I've already got my bills and my expenses. I got to put food on the table. I got kids to take care of. I got to go to work every day. I got all these things that I'm dealing with. I don't want or need one more thing called climate change. So let's just hope it rains less next year. Let's just hope it's not as hot, yada, yada, yada. And people are not getting educated about it because I think mainstream media is really scared of overwhelming people. We all know what we went through accepting the reality of the polycrisis. Most people are not ready to look at it in the way that we have,
Right.
or they'll
Collapse
look at it for
acceptance.
a flash and then look away. And so it's people are just remain in denial, really remain in denial, even with the hot weather around them, the floods around them. It's like hope for the best that next time it won't be that bad.
You think people really are in that much denial that, okay, so
Yeah,
we had terrible
yeah,
fires in Canada
yeah.
and the United States was blanketed in smoke last summer, but this summer New York didn't really have it, so okay, everything's
We
fine.
did. We did.
You did in Colorado.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And
And the powerlessness that people feel. It's like, well, in terms of economy, maybe there's something I can do about that. In terms of my other responsibilities and stresses in my life, there's something I can do about that. But the climate, I can't do anything about that. So there's a sense of powerlessness. And why would I want to look at it deeper when there's nothing I can do?
Right.
That's
And
what people assume.
but people, really in the doomosphere also feel that way to a degree. Like, well, why do I want to look at anything? We're fucked anyway.
Right.
So let's address that, because there's a lot of people I know that say, well, why, there's a couple of camps. There's the we want to collapse as fast as possible and get rid of the hairy ape, or we
Yeah.
want to bring an end because of the suffering of all of the sentient beings that humanity has brought pain. How do we deal with that when we're talking to people and we're all in the same mindset that things are not good, but yet I'm not ushering it in personally
Well,
today.
I think it's really a fool's errand to be sitting around talking about, well, let's do this fast. Let's get this over as fast as we can. Well, you don't know what you're asking for. You're really asking for enormous, enormous suffering.
Yeah.
And, for me, I prefer the slow method. And that's why I think somebody like Harrison Walls can help slow things down, even if they have not sat around and talked with lots of doomers or read all the books on climate change. I think their policies can slow things down, which I think is really important, because it's very we're very removed from the situation when we say, let's do this fast and get it over with. We don't know the outcome of that, except we can be sure lots and lots of suffering.
Lots of suffering. And not just by humans, but by
But
everything.
all
Everything.
living beings.
And while I feel like while we have the chance, I've rewilded my little piece of, earth here that I am a custodian of. There
Right.
are conservation projects. I think people should put their minds and hearts into conservation projects and doing what they can. Ask not what the earth can do for you, but what can you do for the earth?
Right. Right.
Right. All right. Let's look at a couple of what you were going to say something. Do you have
No,
a comment? I
I'm just
have one up. Okay, so I have one. This woman has keen insight. The butcher BB wants to foment World War Two. World War Two. Oh, foment World War Two before November and make it World War Three. Yes. And Dwayne, climate change is a slow moving apocalypse that doesn't equate to Hollywood blockbusters.
right.
Yes,
Right.
Dwayne. And Billy Joe. Hi, Billy Joe. Oh boy, politics. 100 years from now, they say, surely the last years of civilization, they weren't talking politics. What do you say to Billy Joe?
Uh,
Politics.
uh, say that again, Billy
Okay,
Joe.
I gotta
Can
find
you
it
read that
now.
again, please?
For some reason, I clipped it off. I mean, I unhooked it. He said basically, "Oh my God, people are talking politics. That surely in 100 years, meaning that there probably isn't 100 years. Uh, People were sitting around and talking politics. Here we go. Oh boy, politics. 100 years from now, they say, surely the last years of civilization, they weren't talking politics. And then you can't see the emoji, but it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, don't diss politics entirely, because some things can be ameliorated and made less severe through political policies. Not saying it's a cure, but that's why I'm saying that Harrison Walls might be able to mitigate some of the severity of what's going on. They're not perfect. They're not going to save us, as I said in the article. You might want to go back and look at that article. Why I'm excited about their version of politics. Um, yeah, but it's important. It's an important part of our culture, and yeah, there's a lot of corruption, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater completely.
Jean says, I am more interested in community and activism and how to
Yeah,
heal and
yeah,
support each other, which is basically the whole thing that we
yes,
talk about. But see, you interweave political and community and activism and healing and supporting is really important. How are we going to heal and support each other living under a fascist regime that
that's
takes
right,
away our rights? And we've seen in well,
right,
she's from Costa Rica, so she has a bit of a different life
right,
than we do,
right.
right now. And I think in her country, and she probably could tell us, is a bit well, not in the turmoil we're in right now. Dwayne's the same with religion. There's a way to work through, and with religion as a tool instead of a weapon, finding ways to make religion work for us and not against us.
Yeah.
Speak to that.
Well, I'm not big on religion, but I am big on spirituality. And so, one of the things we can do, I believe, is work with progressive religions, not white Christian nationalists.
Yeah.
Work with progressive religions to help alleviate the problems in our communities, to create community, and to have a sense of helping each other, which it doesn't get more traditionally religious than that, and that's the heart of true spirituality as well.
He says, Bella says religion is the problem. Bella, do you want us to pronounce it Bela or Bella? Religion is the problem. Not spirituality, though.
Depends on the religion.
Mm-hmm.
Some religions are fascist religions. I wrote a book called Confronting Christo-Fascism.
And that's the
Um,
show we had together.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, a lot of religions are the problems. There are some religions in the United States that are very progressive, like what Bishop William Barber is doing. It's very,
Oh,
very
with
left political.
the people's campaign.
And the People's Campaign, right?
Yeah.
That's what he's all about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a religion that is doing that kinds of things, um, you know, and it's not required that you believe everything that they teach, but rather that you get in there and serve, and that you care about your community and help each other.
That's what it's all about,
But
helping and making life better for animals and people. Now, do you
yes,
know Gary Hoover, the beautiful, wonderful Gary Hoover, who has a beautiful newsletter, who
I,
is the most spiritual, Jesus following, beautiful Christian who really lives it? First, thank you. I was just at George Floyd Square with Reverend Dr. Where is it? Reverend
I,
Dr. Munther Isaac from Gaza. Those who are being genocide would like us all to simply speak the truth for all species too.
yes,
Gary,
yes.
meet Carolyn. I'm surprised you guys have not crossed spheres.
Good to meet you, Gary.
Oh, I'm going to cross you. I love Gary. So thank you. That was a little thank you to you. Uh, yeah, this is a really interactive show. I'm glad you guys are involved here because this is good. It gives us oh, not that there aren't good people in world's religions. There sure are. But I think a lot of people are just very well, just like politics, they're led astray from what the
Yeah,
basics, they've
yeah.
perverted the love part or the giving or the teaching and the caring and changed it into a money making operation with mega churches and all that shit.
If a person is living their religion in terms of, caring about their community, helping each other, um, then I respect their religion. If they're not doing that, I don't respect their religion.
You don't, right? I got to bring up Gary again. Comment. I love the emphasis on beloved community. The crisis is our spiritual teacher. We are here to love, nothing more, nothing less, nothing else. And Gary was also a follower of Michael Dowd, who we miss horribly.
Yes, we do.
It's going to
We
go on a
certainly.
year in October. And he passed on October 7th. I can't
Mm,
imagine what he would
oh,
think. What
yeah,
he would
I,
think. Teddy made a
I know.
beautiful comment. Christianity has been a strong force of good when it comes to anti poverty programs, building schools and hospitals. So, yeah, so we could bash the bad part, but there have been some good parts. I mean, I don't really I'm not a believer. Hell, I didn't even know if I could feel what spirituality was for a very
Right.
long time. Very long
What does
time.
that mean to you, Sandy? What does that word mean to you?
Spirituality?
Mm-hmm.
For me,
Yeah, for
I think
you.
it means how I live my life and feel feel others good feelings or painful feelings take on I think it's empathy. It's that there's maybe, I don't know if I'd say something guiding me. Maybe it's my own moral compass guiding me, spirituality. I don't believe that there's a being out there, or a God guiding me. I just feel that spirituality is living a positive, not hurtful existence, I guess. I mean, it's kind of flat. I'm not I'm not a meditating person. I've tried. One of
Mhm.
our followers, Void is Yin Yang, is here. He does a meditation on his YouTube. I try. He knows I try.
So for me, the core of spirituality is that everyone and everything is connected. And so, if everyone and everything is connected, then that really, really determines or should determine how I live and how I relate to people and how I relate to the planet and to animals and to all living beings and all things. That's the core of it for me.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Wow. We've already gone full circle. Look at
Yeah, we
that.
have.
Everybody is really into this conversation. Jean had another question. What does it mean? What does this mean? A sacred elder. And is this related to the traditions of any of the Iroquois or the Haudenosaunee tribes?
Yeah,
Haudenosaunee tribes.
all indigenous peoples around the world um, have a have a deep respect for their elders because the elders kind of run the tribes, based on their wisdom and life experience. And they consult with each other and they consult with the people. And so there's great respect for their wisdom and life experience. Um, and it's not just Native Americans, it's all indigenous people. And my personal belief is that as we grow and evolve as human beings, that you know, as we develop and become more compassionate and empathetic and effective in our communities, that we voluntarily step into the role of elder. And I mean non-indigenous people in this culture, that
I'm getting
we
there.
we don't try to we don't try to mimic indigenous elders, but we step into that role. Again, it's an archetype. Something within us as we age draws us to do that. And we need to listen to that instead of, well, I'm old and I'm not attractive anymore. And I'm by myself and I'm retired
Have
and
you been
blah.
listening at my wall?
Victim. Um,
No.
our job is to step up. Sure, we're going to have aches and pains. Sure, we're going to feel grief about things that have happened in our lives earlier. But our role is to step up. And you are an elder, Sandy.
I
You
know.
are an elder. You've stepped into that role. And that's what we all need to be doing, regardless of how old or young we are.
And that's a good thing. We have younger followers now, and it is really a good thing. And I do feel like that. I don't know. I've been tagged. What is it? Madam Butterfly of the Doomosphere, or I am the mom in a way. I have that uh, matriarchal, I guess, feeling
Right.
towards all these people that are wonderful part of Environmental Coffee House that work on these different platforms that do things that converse with me. I love them. I
Yes,
do.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I love you guys. I love you older guys and girls too. So,
Yeah.
anyway. Oh, you're not an elder, Taurustine, you're just old. You're an elder in Greenland. Well, not really. I don't know. He lives in,
Well, that's the
Taurustine.
problem. Let me say something about that. Because there's a difference between older and elder. Most of the folks we know that are over 60 are just older. But elder is something different. It's a role that you consciously step into in your heart, um, because you value your life experience and your wisdom that you've accumulated over the years, and you say to yourself and to the world, I want to use this life experience, I want to use this wisdom
Yeah.
to help all living beings. That's an elder. And there are few of those in our culture, very few, because everybody's so busy getting older.
That's really interesting. It really is because I don't feel, I mean, all right, some days like I haven't been feeling good or I feel, ugh, I don't like the process. But it's
Right.
here. So yeah, I've
Right.
got to accept that the things are changing. Shit's changing. It's not
That's
my
right.
eyes watering all night for some reason. I mean,
Yeah.
stupid things that happen. But I feel that even just the bees today walking to the mailbox, I was so
Yeah.
happy because they came here because I've let them. I've rewilded. I let everything grow. And you
Right.
see so much more by doing that. You really
Exactly.
do.
Yeah.
I can, and now I think about these developments in these lawns and these homeowners associations that make people have to manicure their lawns and use pesticides. It's disgusting.
Right.
Oh my God. I had another one. Da, da, da. Gary again. People are aching for stories of loving connection. These are the stories we are here to live. We teach by living, loving lives even more than by our words.
Absolutely.
How do you live a loving life, Carolyn? Because I know you do.
Uh, well, it doesn't mean that I'm a nice person all the time. Sometimes I get pissed off.
Well, you're
Sometimes I get
human.
frustrated. Um, but I try to live, not just think about, but live the reality that I'm connected with everyone and everything. And that makes a difference in how I live and how I serve.
I like that. Connected. I feel that must be part of my spirituality that I
It
feel
is
that I have a spirituality void, but yet the connection is a spiritual feeling.
absolutely.
Very
You got it,
cool.
girl.
Wow, you
Yeah.
just helped me right here. Carolyn gave me a therapy session. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, everybody. I hope that we have the we're all conscious of the polycrisis. We all see it every day. We are followers of science and the science of climate and overshoot, and we see it and we feel it, and it does hurt. And I have been told that it is calming or sometimes not all my shows but a lot of them. So why don't you tell us what you're doing and what you're involved in and if that can happen in other places, can that be replicated, your collapse work?
Um, the most important thing to me around the collapse work is the coaching that I do with folks. That's really top of my list. That article that I just wrote this weekend, I haven't written a standalone article for God knows how long,
Oh, I love it.
but I just couldn't resist. So I wrote it. And I'm not working on any books. And I'm also in a doctoral online program called Transformational Leadership and Coaching, in which I hope to develop my coaching even further and learn lots of stuff that I need to know.
You're a lifelong learner. You've
I
just
am.
inspired me right there.
All
So
right.
I always thought you were like the premier coach, but you can always learn and always get better and learn new ways to. And
Yeah.
coaching, what is involved in coaching collapse work?
Well, really hearing what people have to say and what their concerns are and what their feelings are about that and how they're living their lives and coping or not coping and what kind of support they need in order to live consciously into collapse, living consciously into it. I know it's happening. And this is how I'm taking care of myself emotionally. This is how I want to live the rest of my life. And very importantly, and I was going to say this a while ago, but this is one of the most important things that I think any of us can learn in the face of collapse. And that is holding in our hearts and bodies the opposites. So over here is doomer scenario, the polycrisis, everything that's going wrong on our planet and in our lives. And over here is the joy. On the other side is the joy, the purpose, the meaning.
I'm gonna
Um,
cry.
that all of this brings to our lives. And we're going to go back and forth with that. We're not going to be able to just perfectly hold all that in one breath. So some days we're going to feel down and depressed. And then remember when we're over there, that over here where we're not feeling it, seeing it yet, is the joy. So what can I do to create some joy in my life? Or to go over there and even experience happiness for a moment or two without feeling guilty. Okay, that's like therapy for me. And then I deal with what I have to deal with around collapse. But I can't say one is bad and the other is good. I mean, we need both. So it's an old principle that Carl Jung taught about holding the tension of the opposites. And that's really hard work. And that's another thing that people don't want to do. People don't want to do that in the doomosphere. They tend to be binary. They tend to be, okay, it's all doom and gloom, and I'm thinking about killing myself, and life sucks. Or I
Nobody
don't want to
says they're
think
going to
about
kill themselves in this chat. I just have to tell you, they're not.
that. Okay. Or the other side, which is I don't want to hear about climate change. I just want to be happy. Okay. And so it takes a mature person and even a wise elder, regardless of how old or young you are, to hold the tension of those two opposites and claim both of those in your life.
Wow. So, and that's how we heal the trauma
Yeah.
of understanding these polycrises and collapse. We heal the trauma by taking both poles and we're bringing them
Yeah.
together.
And holding them. We don't have to bring anything together, just
Okay,
hold.
hold.
Sometimes I'm going to feel depressed. Sometimes I can experience the joy without guilt. And remembering all through it that we are connected with everyone and everything.
Everything. I think a lot of us have a feeling of guilt over all of this. I mean, I have a feeling of stupid guilt because I had this stupid plastic cup from a week ago that I can't get rid of, but I know I shouldn't be using it and it's a straw, but I don't want to get rid of it, so I feel guilty. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
I've been made to feel guilty because we know plastic's destroying everything. You can't even
Right.
go into the grocery store without seeing that. I mean, that's another. It's not just the climate crisis. It's the
Right.
plastic crisis. It's the toxic.
Yeah.
Here's a good
Yes.
one. Jean asks, "Do you find that poetry helps or music?"
Absolutely, poetry helps. Absolutely. And I suppose many of us on this call are familiar with Mary Oliver. She is one wonderful poet who helps us. I mean, here is a woman who she eventually died of cancer, um, who was able to go out every day and just be with the earth and let the earth speak to her and bless her and hold her. And her motto was, um, pay attention and talk about it. Pay attention to what you see and then tell about it. Tell people how wonderful and beautiful this earth is, or whatever experience you're having.
Well, Mary
Yeah,
spoke to me because
it
I'm
really,
doing it.
really helps. Poetry really helps.
Do you write
I have a lot
poetry?
of poetry in my books.
Yeah, you do write poetry. I know.
I don't write it.
Oh,
I
you
put
put
other.
you've
Yeah,
not you're not a poet.
I'm not a
There's none
poet,
of your own work.
but I
So,
bow to them.
oh, everything in your yeah, you do. That's a
Yeah,
beautiful thing though,
yeah,
because they
it is.
write with the heart.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot of amazing people in this sphere.
yes. And somebody just put up in the chat, I just want to be happy. Well,
I
good
did.
luck with
That's Ernie up in Canada who lives a very interesting off
that.
off the beaten path life.
Okay, so that gives me a chance to talk about the difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is circumstantial, it comes and goes. It's related to the word happenstance or haphazard. And, it's like I got a new boyfriend, I'm happy. I got a promotion in my job, I'm happy. I won the lottery, I'm happy. All of those things will go, they'll go away at some point. Joy is different. Joy is something that lives at your core. And as I said, Viktor Frankl wrote about it when he was in Auschwitz. Even in
I
moments
know.
of terrible despair and
Hmm.
suffering, he was able to tap into that joy that lives in his core. It doesn't live out there, it lives inside of us. And we can tap into that whenever we want to.
I do every day. And I really, I didn't realize that was what I was doing.
Yeah,
Tapping
yeah,
into my joy just for the stupid little beautiful things that I have around me that I'm so blessed and lucky and so
yeah.
fortunate. So I know that all the time. I feel that way. Emerald View, hello, hun. They should make plastic cups illegal, but instead they make stupid things illegal.
Instead,
Yeah, I
yeah.
said, yep, that's like, right. I had to put that up since obviously I am feeling the guilt from the stupid plastic cup. All right, here's another one. Jean, you're very into this tonight. What do you think of this statement? Don't focus on being happy, focus on service, creating, loving. Similar?
Well, yeah,
Similar.
I agree with that. And it's okay to be happy. I'm not saying never be happy. I'm just saying if that's your goal in life, you're going to be sorely disappointed because it's going to let you down every time. But if your goal is just I'm going to go through my life and sometimes I'll be happy, sometimes I won't, but then there's always joy. I can tap into that. um, I think that's a
Yeah.
better perspective, a more useful perspective.
Okay, I like that. I want to bring up Anthony because Anthony has a difficult situation. He It's difficult to have peace when I'm living in Dallas, Texas,
Oh
such a
wow.
loud, violent, overcrowded, crime-infested city. Yet, I find some people I encounter to be genuinely kind towards me.
All right.
And
Yeah.
we know Tony well. Tony is a devoted follower. He's got Facebook groups, and he is in a lot of, and he's taking care of an ill wife, and he's had a lot of loss. And he's a
Yeah.
beautiful, a spiritual soul. He's a God fearing soul. Anthony is,
Blessings to you, Tony.
yeah. I know. I wish he could get out of Dallas.
Yeah.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
Um, so when I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but when you talk about these things, these spiritual things and joy and all, is there a meditating that you do or something that people can do to clear their mind, which I never seem to be able to do? And I know that Drew out there, void is yin yang, is like the master at doing this. But tell us what you would suggest.
Well, for the past 45 years, I've been practicing transcendental meditation or TM. And over the years, it has just deepened and deepened, and I just love it more and more and more. It really brings me a sense of calmness and integration and balance, and a sense, again, of connecting with all things and all beings. I love doing it. It's not, maybe not everyone wants to do that. There are many forms of meditation, mindfulness meditation, Buddhist meditation. Um, just go to what you're drawn to, and what feels like it's calling you, I would say. But everybody should have a time in their day, or maybe a couple of times in their day, when they're practicing some kind of stillness practice. Stillness.
Drew does qigong, and I do like watching I mean, 3 or 4 people watch his YouTube channel, but I feel good when I watch him. And he's been on our show because he is a proponent of algae. And it was a really good show. If you ever get to watch it, it was pretty good.
Okay.
I do want to thank Dwayne because Dwayne is extremely generous and he did a super chat and he said, "Hi, Carolyn. It's good to see you, my friend."
Oh, my friend Dwayne, good to see you
He
too.
is
I
absolutely
didn't know
supporting
you
my
would be on
channel.
this call. It's great.
He's wonderful. He got his PhD. You know that. You're friends with him.
Yeah,
He is an
congratulations.
amazing guy and he supports me in this channel in this endeavor and
Yeah.
I'm forever grateful because it's not something I was comfortable with when I did do that. So I appreciate everything. I feel guilty. You know, it's
Yeah.
funny because I watch and I don't know what you look at or what your social media consumption is, but I notice I watch a lot of different things. And the younger people I've seen on Twitch, they have no problem just streaming and putting up help with my bills, help with this, help with that. And I don't know if it's a social media, if it's an age thing, if it's a what it is. I don't like doing it, but there's so many people that have no problem.
Mhm.
What's your take on that kind of thing? The
Well, it
this
might be a generational thing, Sandy. I would not do that. I can't imagine doing that. I do fundraisers for my daily news digest. By the
which
way,
I think I was a
I
paying one.
want to mention
I
my daily news
Yeah.
digest, which covers economics, environment, um, anti democracy report, world news, scandal and corruption, and civil rights, and finally, political news. And then there's
I get it.
always at the end of my digest every day, there's an inspiration section where I
Every
post,
day.
I publish 2 or 3 articles that are inspiring. And up at the top, I have some beautiful photo of nature so that the digest begins with beauty and it ends with beauty. And that's my idea of publishing the bad news in our world.
And it's one stop shopping, guys. And I get it. I think I've been getting it for years. Comes in it's
And so
the
just go to my website, carolynbaker.net, and click on the subscription tab if you want to subscribe.
yeah, it's a worthwhile read because I actually, you know what I used to do? When I
Yeah.
was programming the Facebook page, I would say, okay, what is Carolyn looking at now? And if there's something interesting, I'm going to use what she did, put it on
Yeah.
Facebook. Although I don't
Yeah.
do the Facebook anymore, Jonathan O has been doing it for years. But yeah, actually, you do you weave it. It's a good newsletter because of what your choices are and how you put it together. Yeah, it's definitely worth it, guys. Worth the read. All right, let's see. I wonder how Joseph Campbell or George Carlin would explain our society today. Want to take a
Uh,
try at that
well,
one?
yeah, Joseph Campbell would certainly tell us to go within and, like I've been saying, heal our trauma and become wise elders, regardless of how old or young we are. And George Carlin, he would just have a whole bunch of humorous things to say about our culture. It would be wonderful to have him back so we could hear that. He never gets old for me.
No, he
So
examines the absurd of it all.
Yeah, yeah, he
It's the
does.
absurdities. I love
Yeah,
using his clips, but I have to be careful that I don't get a copyright.
yeah, yeah. I know. I hear you.
Yeah, yeah, because the copyright police.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
is there anything that you want to talk about specifically that we haven't covered that besides, that the newsletter? Is there anything else?
Yeah, I just want to mention my last two books. Again, I mentioned it earlier. Undaunted, Living Fiercely into Climate Meltdown. This is on Audible, so
Oh, that's
you can listen to it if you want to. Not on Audible, but more recent, Apocalypse Anytime, an inspirational devotional for a world on fire. So if you want to get serious about healing trauma and really preparing emotionally and spiritually for collapse, these two books are necessary textbooks.
all right. Yes, I have them both. I think I have a bookshelf of Carolyn Baker, so but I didn't know that was on audio.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find audio. I'm in the middle of like three different audiobooks right now.
Yeah.
Kristen, trauma is being destigmatized in society. That's a huge move in the right direction.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah.
And yeah,
And Thomas Hubble has been really, really helpful. Hubbl, if you get a chance to follow him. And there are other people, he's German, but there are other people in the United States who are very helpful. If you want to learn more about who, you can contact me. But
okay.
yes, by
All
all
right.
means, it's being destigmatized, and by all means, let's do it.
Let's do it. Emerald View. Sad to say, but I don't see any healing of trauma going down. Maybe I've just become an eternal pessimist now.
Well, being an eternal pessimist doesn't feel good, so I would encourage you to add some joy to your life. Um, and don't look for the healing of trauma in big, huge displays. Look for it first in your own life and then in the life of other people who are working on it. And, if you get involved in some of these groups with people like Thomas Hubble and others, you'll meet people who are healing from their trauma.
And how do you speak to people that are experiencing trauma that is because they have no money or they're young, they can't get the right job or their job sucks? That's a big thing with young people is, bullshit jobs. That's the term. How do
Right.
you address that for the younger folks out there that have that and are looking? I mean, really, we're talking about the elders. Take a few minutes. Let's talk to the younger people that are born into this shit,
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
born into the polycrisis.
Well, first of all, I would say, I just have to say to you, it is not easy. You did not ask to be born at this time, but you are born at a time of polycrisis and unraveling and collapsing. And so you need some of these tools that we're talking about, that I'm writing about in my books. And it's really important to start, as you're job hunting, start with what you can get, and just keep working on advancing as best you can, educating yourself, whether that's formally in a school or just by reading and being curious. Um, and get support in your life, uh, with a community of people your age, and there are so many communities of people your age who are working on the things that we're talking about. So don't be alone with it, is what I'm trying to say.
And I think it's hard. I find from what I see is that so many people are socially isolated. And even after COVID, social
Mhm.
isolation or the internet. And here we are, we're on the internet. We are
Sure.
reaching out. There
Yeah.
was something I saw. I have to find it. Oh, what if your trauma is so deep that you can't face it? Are you doomed?
No, if it's that deep and you're really sure it's that deep, you may need psychotherapy. You may need something more than coaching. And the important thing is that you stay alive, that you keep breathing, and that you find some meaning and purpose in your life. And you may need some additional help with that. I don't know because I don't know what your story is. But, and sometimes we feel like the trauma is worse than it is. And with a little help and support, we find that it can be worked with and through.
And I think that Bella or Bila, I don't know what he wants it pronounced, is a part of our community, and he's been to my home. I mean, he's wonderful, and I don't know if that was personally to him or if it was just a generalized question, but I hope that helped. I do.
Yeah.
um Gary says, I recommend looking into PTSD, persistent traumatic stressful environments. Dr. Sean Ginwright. I'm just learning about this from some urban justice activist friends. Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
Come on, Carolyn, you gotta meet Gary. I guess. See, I'm a person that wants to bring people together. Also, Tommyist saying all trauma can be healed is like saying that all flesh wounds can be healed. The reality is some can and others can't.
That's true.
I don't
That's
think you
true.
were saying that it could all be healed. It could never all be healed. I will never be all healed. Nobody
Right.
will, because we
Right.
live in a society, in a time when there is so much coming at us all at once, all the time. How can you sometimes take that breath except for meditate?
Right. Right.
And there's the traumas are all different, and the trauma the young people are experiencing too
Yeah.
is a lot
Yeah.
different. And I'm very sensitive to that.
Good.
Well, Dwayne just said it, and here we are on social media. One way to alleviate trauma is to stay off social media and other technology. Get out and relate to the earth if you can.
I couldn't agree more.
And a
Absolutely.
lot of people are doing that in cities, in community gardens.
Hmm.
I love reading about that. I really
Me
do.
too. Yeah.
Um, okay, I know Bella's Osama. All right. Anybody have a question? Or Carolyn, do you want to then? We've been an hour and 15. Do you have anything that you would like to impart? Some real good wisdom to everybody. Polycrisis, trauma, healing, communicating, loving, caring in that sense.
Let's see. I just have to look at my book here, and read some wisdom from the great poet Rilke. He says, "Joy is inexpressibly more than happiness. Happiness befalls people. Happiness is fate, while people cause joy to bloom inside themselves. Joy is plainly a good season for the heart. Joy is the ultimate achievement of which human beings are capable."
Wow.
Since we
So I
began with
guess,
joy, I thought I would end with
yeah.
that.
I think I could have to change the thumbnail and stick the word joy in there.
Okay.
It's a good word for the night. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I do hope you found a little joy tonight to be with us.
Yeah, me
It,
too.
it, it, it was, I love having you here. And I do feel good. I feel like I had a therapy session,
All
but
right.
also with all of you. And I'm going to wear my elder crown proudly.
There you go. Do that.
Proudly. I love you guys, and I'll see you Friday night. Friday night is the Three Domingos. And tonight, if you are politically minded and you follow my left past 10 with the letter hack, he's doing his political show tonight. The election in Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, and they're doing the returns, and there's experts on his channel. So there you go. Good night, everybody.
Good night.